Welcome friends to this new video of Sapphire Talks English. Today I will be presenting to you a brief overview of the India-UK trade deal that has become operational on 15th of July 2026. Now friends, this is a very important economic development because now we have moved beyond announcements and signatures and we have entered the stage where businesses can actually begin trading with each other under the new rules. According to the UK government, this agreement was formally set to enter into force on 15 July after both sides had completed the necessary preparations in their customs systems and procedures. The UK government has always described this arrangement as a landmark trade deal and estimated that the long run gain for the UK economy would be $4.8 billion to UK's GDP and an annual increase in trade of $25.5 billion in bilateral trade. Now in this presentation I shall try to cover 5 points. First, I will explain the background and a little history of this agreement, so we'll be able to understand where actually all this is coming from. Second, I will discuss what benefits accrue to India, and third, I will also look at it why UK itself is interested in this trade deal so much. I will then place this trade deal in the broader context of other trade agreements concluded by India in the last 5 years and those agreements which are still in the pipeline. And finally, I will discuss this development and what it means for India's image in the global diplomatic and economic landscape. So let's begin this video, friends, and happy learning to all of us. So let's begin with some background of this agreement, so it will give us a perspective regarding where this agreement is coming from. Now, the India-UK trade agreement did not emerge overnight. It was the outcome of meticulous work over 4 years and 14 rounds of talks. These discussions covered tariff liberalization, services, professional mobility, market access, investments, quality standards, and other areas of economic cooperation. After these rounds of discussion, the agreement was finally signed in 2025 and both countries then worked through ratification and implementation procedures so that the pact could become operational finally on 15th July 2026. Now this timeline is important for 2 reasons. First, it shows the complexity of modern trade agreements. Such agreements are simply no longer about custom duties alone. They involve detailed commitments across goods, services, regulations, movement of professionals. Second, it also shows that both India and UK are immensely committed to this agreement and they have worked towards making this agreement a success in spite of domestic sensitivities and pressures. This agreement is also significant from India's perspective because it is widely seen as the first bilateral trade agreement with a major European or Western partner to become operational in this form. In that sense, it has both commercial and symbolic value. Another important point is that the trade pact is accompanied by the double convention contribution or the social security arrangement, which reduces the burden of dual social security contributions for temporary workers and employers. So this is just not about goods agreement, it is also about cross-border services and mobility. Now let us turn to benefits for India. Now the biggest headline is market access. Reports on the agreement indicate that India has secured duty-free access on 99% of tariff lines in the UK, covering almost the full value of Indian exports to the UK. This is now especially important for a labor-intensive and export-oriented manufacturer like India, and in particular in sectors such as textiles, garments, footwear, leather, marine products, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, engineering goods, and auto components. So the question is, why does this matter so much? Because many of these sectors employ large number of workers and depend heavily on price competitiveness. When tariffs in the destination market fall to zero, Indian products become more competitive against other suppliers from other countries. This improves export opportunities, profit margins, and potentially employment generation. A second benefit is that India appears to have preserved policy space in several sensitive sectors. Public reports suggest that sectors such as dairy, cereals, edible oil, oilseeds, and agricultural products have been protected. This suggests that India has negotiated selectively. It has opened up where it saw export gain and strategic value, but remained cautious in politically and economically sensitive segments. A third benefit relates to services and professional mobility. The linked Social Security Convention is particularly relevant for Indian professionals on temporary assignments in the UK, including those in IT, consulting, and service sectors. By avoiding or reducing dual contributions, the arrangement lowers the cost for both workers and employers. That strengthens India's position not just as a goods exporter but also as a provider of skilled talent and business services. So, overall, the agreement is not just about tariffs, it is about exports, employment, services, competitiveness, and smarter external economic integration. So, if this agreement has served India so much, let's now also try to see what benefits the United Kingdom is getting out of this agreement. The UK government has publicly stated that the deal could add up to 4.8 billion to the UK GDP in the long run, raise wages by about 2.2 billion, increase bilateral trade by about 25.5 billion annually over the long term. Now, these are substantial projections and they explain why the UK has promoted this deal as a major post-Brexit economic achievement. At a sectoral level, one of the most visible gains for the UK is improved access to India's large consumer market. Tariffs on Scotch whisky, for example, are being reduced significantly. Reports indicate a staged reduction from 150%, with tariffs falling sharply over time. Likewise, tariff reduction on automobiles under quota arrangements and the elimination or reduction of duties on products like cosmetics make the Indian market more attractive for British exporters. There is also a strategic commercial benefit. India is one of the largest and fastest growing major economies, with a large middle class and expanding consumption base. For British businesses, better access to India means new opportunities not only in premium consumer goods but also in professional services, technology partnerships, education, finance, and high value manufacturing links. So, from the UK perspective, the deal is not merely about selling more whiskey and cars. It is also about securing a stronger economic foothold in a major growth market and demonstrating that UK can negotiate meaningful trade agreements with major economies outside Europe. Now let's look at the India-UK trade agreement in a larger context. Over the past 5 years, India has clearly shifted towards a more active trade agreement strategy. Important agreements in this period include the India-Mauritius CECPA in 2021, the UAE CEPA in 2022, the Australia ECTA in 2022, the EFTA Trade and Economic Partnership signed in 2024, and now the India-UK agreement which has become operational in 2026. Each of these agreements serves a different strategic purpose: market access, investments, supply chain diversifications, and geopolitical balancing. The larger point is that India is no longer approaching trade agreements with the same hesitation like earlier years. Instead, India appears to be pursuing carefully chosen deals with countries or blocs that can provide clear strategic benefits. Now, as far as the pipeline of agreements is concerned, that is, agreements which will come in the future, several discussions remain important. Public commentary continues to focus on proposed agreements with Oman, the India-EU trade agreements, the likely progression from Australia's interim agreement towards a broader and deeper comprehensive agreement, and discussions involving the GCC, that is the Gulf Cooperation Council. This means that the UK deal should not be viewed in isolation. It is a part of a broader Indian effort to build a modern network of trade relationships across the Gulf, Europe, Indo-Pacific, and other investment-focused partners. The operationalization of this agreement also improves India's image in at least 4 ways. First, it strengthens India's credibility as a negotiating power. Signing an agreement is one thing, bringing it into force is another thing. Implementation shows that India can actually negotiate complex modern trade frameworks and follow up on them. Second, it enhances India's image as a balanced reformer. The agreement suggests that India is willing to liberalize trade, but in a calibrated manner. It is not opening everything up indiscriminately. Instead, it is protecting sensitive domestic sectors while pursuing gains in exports, services, and strategic industries. Third, it supports India's image as a trusted manufacturing and services hub. Better access for textiles, engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, auto components, professional services aligns with India's larger ambitions in supply chain, digital services, and outward economic engagements. Fourth, the deal also has a lot of diplomatic value. A functioning trade agreement with UK can strengthen India's hand in ongoing negotiations with the European Union and other partners. It shows that India is capable of concluding commercially meaningful and politically sustainable deals with advanced economies. So, in image terms, the deal tells the world that India is not standing outside the global trade architecture. It is, in fact, shaping the architecture in a way that matches its own interests and development priorities. Now, friends, if you have found this video interesting, if you have found that this video has added something to your knowledge, kindly like this video. Please subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment box. I'll take your leave until the next video. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Vande Mataram.